Hello, my name is John Burris. Thank you for joining me today for this short video called Natural Recovery from Addictions Part 2. This is part of a 4-part series. If you haven't watched Part 1 yet, it'll give you a really good background, so go back and watch Part 1. In the 4-part series, I'll be exploring in depth a new model on addictions, and it's a completely new model based on nature rather than science. I'll take you through a whole nother world of healing and recovery, and we'll find a way to explore all kinds of possibilities in our lives. So part 2 today, we'll be taking you into all kinds of nuances of the addiction world, sharing with you a new story, a new model, and showing you how to heal. And nature's our greatest gift and our greatest healing tool. So through these series, we'll be showing you how nature can heal us in the best way possible. This work is based on my 40 years as a body worker and body-mind therapist. And those discoveries I'll be sharing with you today. If you like some great background information, I have a wonderful book. It's called Return to Nature, The 5 Pillars of Healing, where it gives you great detail about not just the addiction healing story, but other kinds of ways to heal your body from all kinds of other things too. The book is available at my website, johnburris.com, barnesandnoble.com, or amazon.com as well. So as a disclaimer, I'm not giving you any medical advice or a medical treatment. It's just a new theory, a new idea which worked for me, and it's worked for many of the clients I've worked with over 40 years. So once again, this is not a medically induced treatment for you. So gather the information you need and do what is best for you. So once again, this is from my many years as a body-mind therapist and all the workshops and articles I've written. And it shares with you a new model. And so the model is essentially this. Over 90 years ago, the AA model was created, and that was the foundation for the addiction theory. It's basically a scientific model, basically, that says your body is responsible for your addictions. Your body's broken. You have some kind of genetic fault. There's something wrong with you that's making you smoke and drink and do drugs. And I believe science got it wrong. It is my belief that science has it backwards. The scientific theory has never accurately identified what an addiction is. So let me show you what my definition of addiction is. An addiction is a relationship with a person, object, thought, behavior, or emotion that is used to numb out an uncomfortable feeling or sensation. It's a relationship. So in our world, there's gatekeepers for knowledge and gatekeepers for truth. For example, in the 17th century, the gatekeeper was the Catholic Church in Europe, and they told us that basically the earth was the center of the universe. And Galileo comes along and says, no, it's not. The sun's the center of the universe. Because the Catholic Church had knowledge, but they didn't have truth. Same thing happens today, where the scientific community, the government, the media, and religions, they tell us they have the truth. They have knowledge, but often it's not the truth. So when it comes to addictions, the scientific community has led us astray and taken us in the wrong direction because they're blaming our biology on the choices we're making. And they're saying you're defective, you're at fault because you're a victim of your biology, and that's the mistake that's taken people in the wrong direction. So what I've seen is over the years is that the scientific community basically says the way to heal from addictions is to basically become addicted to control. Because you can't change the thing. Alcohol, sugar, nicotine, they're evil. They demonize it as being evil, and it's not your fault because it's in your biology. So what they've done is demonize things. They try to get you to become addicted to control. We call that sobriety. Well, that's not healing. That's not recovery. That's a compensation model, not a cure model. You're always in a cage having to defend yourself against the thing. And you're never really free at all. So the scientific model has taken us in the wrong direction for 90 years. And so what I do today is offer you a new model that gives you freedom and healing. And science got it wrong. And science has been the gatekeeper for much of our knowledge, but a lot of what science has delivered has not been true at all. Remember margarine? I grew up having to never been able to eat butter because butter was evil. Turns out margarine was one of the worst things we can eat, but the scientific community told us how healthy it was. So nature's the greatest healing guide, and today I'm going to share with you a model based in nature and how to heal from addictions based on nature, not in science, because I believe science got it wrong. It's taken people in the wrong direction for 90 years. What science does, it takes a condition and it labels it, then it owns it, and it has power over it. Then it often creates drugs for it. It says, okay, you have obesity. It's genetically, it's in your hereditary, it's in your genes, it's not your fault. I think in some cases that's true. You might have a thyroid issue that causes obesity. In my experience, most people are obese because they don't exercise enough and they eat too much. But that's choices you're making. It has nothing to do with science. Science has labeled depression as a disease. I don't see that in my work as a body worker. It's blocked energy flow. So science takes things and they make them their own, and they create it as a biological issue. And in my experience, that's not true at all. So when it comes to addictions, science has turned addictions into a disease. And in my world, it's not a disease at all. It's a choice. We're making bad choices, and I'll share with you in this video and the ones that follow why we're making those bad choices and how to change that. So that's why the natural recovery from addictions is about making better choices and not blaming your biology as science has taught us to do. So I believe in congruency. Basically, when you take your car in to get it fixed, you don't want your gardener fixing your car. You want an auto mechanic who specializes in what you need. If you want a 7-course meal cooked at home, you don't call the librarian to come cook your meal. Basically, you find people who specialize in what they do. The problem is science doesn't specialize in emotions. Science is terrified of emotions, and they're the ones trying to teach us how to get well and try to heal. So the scientific medical community, in my experience, has almost no business about addictions because it's an emotional experience. We need people who teach us how to feel and emote in a healthy, functional way, teaching us how to get out of our addiction cycle. So the scientific medical community is not congruent with what's needed to heal because it's not in their league. They should stick to blood tests and other things, fixing broken bones, because emotions are the most important part of the addiction cycle. Learning how to heal and process your emotions will cure all your addictions. Not taming your biology or blaming your biology. So the scientific community, whether they have knowledge, have very little truth, and they're not congruent. They don't belong in the addiction field because addictions, in my experience, are not a scientific thing. They're an emotional thing. So let's be congruent and find the people who can teach us how to feel and process and emote and resolve our inner conflicts, and those are not scientists or the medical community. You know, there's no faulty gene ever discovered for alcoholism. They say it every day. There's articles written on it. It's not true. By the time you pick up the first beer, the second beer, the third beer, your genes aren't causing that. That's your choices you're making. Based on your conditioned patterns you've developed, you've chosen those patterns, those conditions, because you want to suppress some emotions. So when do we stop blaming our genes for the choices we're making? And that's the problem with the scientific community. They keep us victimized and blaming our biology on so much which isn't biological. So let me show you how the 3 brains work in the body. This is essentially the brains. On the top is the cortex, the thinking brain. In the middle is the mammalian brain, or the emotional brain, and beneath that's the cortex, or the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is responsible for our stress response. It's fight or flight. The mammalian brain is how we process emotions, and the cortex is our thinking brain, where science lives. Well, the thinking brain is so terrified of emotions. The thinking brain tells you, oh, big boys don't cry, good girls don't get angry, only weak people are emotional. That's the thinking brain, the same place where science lives. that's trying to curtail and squash the emotional brain and the reptilian brain because it's terrified of them. The scientific brain is terrified of emotions, so it tries to squish it down. And here's the model I like to use. You have emotions on one side and sensations and feelings on the other side. The more you work on your emotional work, the less you need addictions. It bounces off. The more addictions you have is because the least amount of ability to process your emotions. And once again, here's my addiction scale. On this side, we have addictions. On this side, we have emotions. The people who have the most addictions have no ability to process their emotions. The people who are have the most emotional intelligence have the fewest addictions, because their emotional intelligence is able to process their inner conflicts, so they have very little need for addictions. It's a scale. So when you don't work on the emotional side, you're going to have more addictions. And that's what we've run into in our life. The logical question anyone should ask is, well, where did it all start from? And it starts from birth and the first couple of years of life. So I'm going to make a very strong statement, but I wholeheartedly believe it. My experience as a body-mind therapist and body worker says we're all stuck in some kind of early trauma. Birth trauma, early infant trauma. And what I believe is that the worst crime ever committed upon the human population was the invention of pediatricians and merging of science. That's right. Because what they did, they took away our natural instincts, and they caused us to be living in a stress response. So the merging of pediatricians and science basically took away natural birthing and raising of children, which women have been doing for thousands of years or more. And they said, no, we scientists know better how to raise babies than you do. Come into our hospitals and we're going to sterilize everything and you'll be fine. Well, they turned the baby into a thing. They told us that babies don't feel, babies don't remember. We can basically do whatever we want to do. And what they've done, they've created this crime against humanity. They've broken natural law. And that natural law is still haunting us. So most of us have this original trauma. And that's the source of we don't feel safe in the world. We're always looking over our shoulder. It's called stress. And when we're in a stress response, we're looking for ways to medicate because we're never relaxed. Almost nobody comes to my massage table relaxed. Their neck hurts, their shoulder hurts, their back hurts, because almost everybody in our cultures these days is stuck in an early infant stress response because pediatricians broke natural law. So what do I mean by natural law? Almost every mammal, and some that are not mammals, carry their infants with them all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter if it's convenient or not, for the first couple of years of life till they're ready to be off on their own. This is natural law. Once again, this is the law of nature across the board. It's a law like gravity's a law. Carry your young, be together, sleep together, hang out together. Don't let them be alone. This is natural law. And even now and then you might see it in conscious parenting, where conscious parenting does the same thing because this is natural law. Carry your children, sleep with your children for the first couple years of life because it makes them feel safe. So here's the bottom of it all. When we're born without much of anything. You know, when a horse is born, it's walking within minutes. Most animals are up walking and function within minutes, but it takes us a year or two to walk because it's not programmed into us. The most important programming in a human being or any animal, mammal or whatnot, is the world a safe place? Can I trust the world? And so what's happened to us because of pediatricians and the way we've been birthed and raised, we're removed. And so we develop a belief. The world's not a safe place. I can't trust anybody. I can't trust myself. You develop shame. There's something wrong with me because the world's going around and I don't know what's going on. So we're all embedded with this original birth trauma and early infant trauma because of pediatricians removing us from natural wisdom. So we have this belief in us. It's called stress. I can't relax. I can't let go. I never feel safe. I'm always looking over my back. Pediatricians cause that. So here's the average adult. We're going to sleep together, cuddle together, watch TV together, pet our dog, have sex, whatever. And we'll leave the infant alone in his own bedroom for 8 hours to basically figure out the world on their own, because we're going to take care of ourselves. The parents are enjoying their cozy room. This is what's going on in the infant. They're not just crying. They're developing a belief the world's not a safe place, so their stress response is being turned on and imprinted. I don't feel safe ever. I can't let go. I can't relax. I don't believe the world's a safe and supportive place. This is because the parents have abandoned the child to its own room. Again, here's natural law being broken. Child not just screaming and crying, they're abandoned to try to figure life out themselves, and they're creating a belief the world is not a safe place. Their stress response is being turned on and imprinted. I can never relax. When you can never relax, you're going to look for ways to medicate yourself. That's called addictions. And here's what happens when that baby grows up into an adult who still has a stress response. They don't feel safe in the world. This is what happens to us as adults looking to medicate. Your stress response is turned on because of your infant trauma, and this is what you end up like. So here's what we do. So in conscious parenting, we do this. We go, oh, I have baby Mary here. Baby Mary is held 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the first 2 or 3 years of life. And baby Mary gets imprinted the belief the world's a safe place. So the imprinting here is the world's a safe and supported place. That's what happens to baby Mary. So as she grows up, she has fewer need for addictions because she's not under distress. The core of her body isn't distressed. She feels safe in her skin because of conscious parenting that honors nature. Okay? So what happens here, let's take baby Peter here. He is removed. You're going to go to your own room. It's blue because babies have blue. And so what happens is baby Peter here, we leave him alone. And we say, oh, you're on your own. So what gets imprinted in baby Peter is the belief the world's not a safe place. Baby Mary over here is imprinting the belief the world's a safe and supported place because she's always held 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Baby Peter, now trying to figure out the world, he gets imprinted the trauma that says the world's not a safe place. His stress response gets turned on, and now he never feels safe in his skin, so he's always going to be looking for a way to medicate himself, to numb out the terror he feels at his core. That's what happened. The scientific medical world has created a sin against humanity, against nature, by removing the baby and creating a stress response. That's at the root of all our addictions. We just can't relax. So what happens as we get older, it doesn't change. So for example, this is your infant self here, and your infant self, you develop a belief that the world's a safe and supported place. And that's the core of who you are. And so as you become a teenager, your body gets bigger, but your core belief is intact there. And now as you become an adult, your body gets bigger, but at the core of yourself, you believe the world's a safe and supported place. So you have fewer need for addictions because you believe you feel safe and supported all the time. However, the babies who were removed, they create a belief the world's a scary place. The world is not to be trusted. Their stress response is turned on. They are in a state of distress, and their stress response is turned on. So what happens is now you become a teenager. Your body gets bigger, but your stress response is still turned on. And then you became an adult, and guess what happens? That stress response doesn't go away. It's still turned on. So as a body worker, I see people in distress because of their early childhood trauma that's still in them. So as we become adults, We have either a relaxation response or a stress response, often based on how we were birthed and raised. And many people are in a state of distress because of their birthing in the first 3 years of life. And that's the root of most addictions. It's an emotional thing that happens because we've broken natural law based on the scientific pediatrician model. We are all addicts. There are no us or them. It's not black and white. We are all addicts. So there's good news and bad news. The bad news is we're all addicts. The good news is you're not alone. We're all addicts. There are no us or them. This scientific model wants to say, well, there's addicts and there's non-addicts. I've never met a non-addict. We're all addicts. I mean, you might have different addictions. You know, the fantasy addict is no different than the heroin addict at their core. They're trying to medicate and numb out. The gambling addict is no different than the workaholic addict. They're just trying to numb out. So we have different types of addictions. But at our root, we're doing the same thing. We're trying to medicate and numb out. I see so many professional people are basically hiding behind their careers and their control addiction and their professionalism, saying, I'm not an addict, but they become a workaholic, they become a control addict, they become a power addict. They have hidden addictions that you never see because we're all addicts. And so don't be confused when somebody says it's us or them, because it's not. We all have addictions. Some addictions are harder to spot. It's harder to spot a reading addict than it is to spot a heroin addict, but they're still there. So we are all addicts. We're all using something to medicate because we're all stuck in some kind of early childhood trauma. And most people never had the proper training in how to process their emotional conflicts. Addictions are your best friends. Addictions are your best friends. They're very loyal. They will never leave you. And they'll always be there. You know, in today's world, you can take your addiction with you. You take your vape pen and you put it in your pocket or your cell phone, and you can text message when you want to, make a phone call. You can scroll in the middle of the night when you're feeling scared and lonely in bed. You take your music with you to medicate yourself on music. Your cigarettes, you know, we carry with you from place to place. You know, so they're your best friends. They are loyal. They keep you company when you're feeling lonely. So they're going to be with you unless you choose to abandon them. They're not going to abandon you. They're going to use what you gave them, the ability to medicate and numb out. So once again, we take them with us these days, so they're always there. You can tell people their addictions by what's in their pockets usually. You know, are they a shopping addict? Are they a smoking addict? Or a vaping addict? Or a text messaging addict? Do we always have a book with them? Or always reading a magazine or scrolling on their phone? People will carry their addictions with them everywhere they go because they're loyal and nobody wants to be without them. You don't want to be stuck without your addictions if you're feeling an emotional distress. So that's why they're loyal. They're your friends. They're with you all the time. You know, the addict, which is all of us, knows where to get their stuff. The donut addict knows where every donut store is. The nicotine addict knows where every liquor store is. The alcoholic knows where to buy the alcohol. The drug addict always has a supplier somewhere. They always know because they never want to run out. So we always have this back storage. The chocolate addict has always got chocolate stored underneath the pillow somewhere because you never want to run out of your addiction, your drug. So they're with us. They're our friends. And most people don't realize that they take them with them. The guy who's got the candy in his backpack all the time, basically. When it comes to addictions, there's often a concept called control versus surrender. It's called crossing the magic line. And we talk about addictions as a relationship. There's primary and secondary relationships when it comes to addictions. So, for example, addictions come in layers. For example, you have the food addict who's also an exercise addict. They can't stop eating, and that would make them fat, so they also are an exercise addict. So they control. It's like a bulimic. It's different relationships with different things. You have the perfectionist who's addicted to perfectionism and then uses alcohol to medicate her perfectionism. So the primary addiction is to perfectionism and the secondary addiction is to alcohol to medicate the stress caused by perfectionism. So you might also have a workaholic being the primary relationship, and the workaholic uses cigarettes or vaping to medicate from the stress caused by the workaholism. So relationships work as a package sometimes. You might have a primary relationship and a secondary relationship which medicates you from the harm created by the primary relationship. There are many different types of addictive relationships. It's not just about substances or chemicals. You can have a substance addiction, you can have a behavior addiction, you can have a character addiction, you can have an emotional addiction. It's the same process. You're using something to medicate yourself from feeling your feelings and resolving inner conflicts. Once again, there's different types of addictive relationships. Substances we know about. Alcohol, nicotine, food, drugs, things we ingest or smoke that put it into ourselves, that medicate ourselves from feeling. You can also have behavior addictions, work addiction, news addiction. I know people from the moment they wake up in the morning to the moment they go to bed at night are addicted to watching the news or reading about the news. Information in today's technology world and information world, people are addicted to information. Sex addiction, lying addiction, stealing, gossiping, shopping, gambling. We have online shopping. It's easy to become addicted. Gambling is so rampant these days, it's easy to be an online gambler or gamble at racetracks or at clubs or whatnot. You can be addicted to surfing. You can be addicted to exercise. Text messaging addiction, emailing addiction, scrolling through your phone addiction. These are all behavioral addictions. Here's one that people don't think about. We live in a culture of voyeur addiction, which means we want to watch other people live their life. So this is the whole scrolling on your phone addiction, where you're watching somebody surf or dance or have sex or go on a camping trip. So we're addicted to watching other people live their life and do things rather than do them ourselves. It's called voyeur addiction. We're actually getting high off of watching other people lead their life. Those are behavior addictions. There's also character addictions. A character is more of a personality thing. You can be addicted to seduction, usually more common with women. You can be addicted to power, to control, to manipulation, to lying, to violence, to sabotage. A lot of people are addicted to sabotage. They actually get high off of failing. That's part of their addictive cycle they can't get out of. There's people addicted to perfectionism. They have to be perfect. They get high off being perfect. So these are all character addictions. You can also have emotional addictions where you use one emotion to cover up another emotion. For example, for men who have a difficult time feeling fear, we're really good at anger. So we get angry, which creates all kinds of emotional energy to cover up the fear we can't feel. For women who aren't very good at expressing anger, they're good at grief, so they'll cry when they're angry because they're using the grief experience to cover up anger they can't feel. So we often use emotions to cover up other emotions. It's still part of the addictive experience. Now there's also what's called positive and negative addiction. So for example, most of us know about the negative addictions. We know that smoking is bad. We know that vaping is bad. We know that excess alcohol use is bad, that street drug use is bad. We know that. That's a known. So it's basically when people do it, they're engaging in what's called a negative addiction as far as society is concerned, because that's part of their process. They're getting high off of failure. If you'd like to know more about this, I have a wonderful video on YouTube about why we sabotage our lives. People are actually choosing to fail. You can watch there to find out more about why people are choosing addictions that create failure. But we also have addictions that are positive reinforcing. For example, there's a perfection addict. She's addicted to being perfect all the time. There's the reading addict. You'll find these people in the library, the bookstores, they always have their nose in a book. They're always reading. We have the workaholic addict who's praised because it's like, yay, look out, what a good work ethic they are. Well, they can't stop working. It's because it's their addictive cycle. So we have positive and negative emotions. The negative ones are scorned on by society, and the positive ones are rewarded by society. We have the competition addict who can't stop competing. They have to conquer other people because we're praised to be conquerors in our culture. So you might want to look at, do I have a negative addiction or a positive addiction, at least in the eyes of society, even though all addictions are the same. And this is the one that always gets me. There's no such thing as an addictive personality. We're all addicts. We all have addictions. You see these stories about people going from one addictive substance to another, from marijuana to heroin to cocaine, and they say, well, it's just my addictive personality. It's not true at all, because we're all addicts. We all choose things based on our personality and choices. If you're the good hero of the family, you're going to find hero addictions. If you're the lost child in the family or the black sheep in the family, you might find more destructive addictions, because we're all part of the same story here. There's no addictive personalities. We have choices we're all making based on our life experiences and our choices. For example, you may try alcohol once in high school and have a bad experience and say, I never want to do this again, because it's not part of your personality. Maybe you're super religious or you have other issues with that. So it's not the alcohol. You're making a choice. I don't want this in my life. So it's not part of your life experience. And other people say, well, yes, I want this. This helps me lose my mind and free me for a half an hour, 2 hours, and I want this in my life. So those are the choices we make, but there's no such thing as an addictive personality. That's part of the us or them mentality. Also, there are no addictive substances. That's part of the us or them mentality as well. You know, we live in this culture that wants to blame the thing. It's alcohol's fault, I can't stop drinking it. No, you're making a choice to imprint that as a way to medicate. You have a whole layer of addictions that are all ready to be used. So it's that imprinting. Once you imprint something, it feels good. You imprint it as a yes or no in your life, and you have it ready to be used when you need to. So it's not the thing. Cocaine is not addictive. There's people who tried cocaine once and didn't do it again. People who tried heroin once never did it again. If it was addictive, you can never stop doing it, because we're still blaming the thing for what is happening. So in my experience, we're more addicted to a quality of a high feeling. And it's not necessarily the substance. For example, a sugar addict. We go, oh, there's a sugar addict. Well, you know, the sugar addict doesn't just go out to the store and buy a 5-pound bag of sugar. They're not interested in the sugar. They're interested in the quality where it's coming in. They want a creamy, cool, crunchy product, or a smooth, cold product like an ice cream or whatnot. It's the quality of the experience. You know, for most alcoholics, it's very rare that they just drink alcohol. Very rare, unless you find some homeless person who just can't not stop, who goes into a store and buys a rubbing alcohol and drinks it. Most alcoholics have a brand. I'm a white wine drinker. I'm a red wine drinker. I'm a beer drinker. I'm a whiskey drinker. They're addicted to the quality. That's what gives them the high. Basically, a beer drinker is not going to get a boxed wine and drink, because it's not what they're looking for. They're looking for the quality of the experience that gets them high. Some people want a crunchy cookie. Some people want a smooth, chewy cookie. It's the quality. Look at cigarettes. There's so many kinds of cigarettes. Why do people choose? Because certain ones have menthol. Certain ones have different flavoring. It's not necessarily the nicotine originally that creates the high. It's the wanting that quality experience. When you see a donut addict, they go into a donut store and go, why don't I just get any donut? Here, give me a half a dozen donuts. No, they're choosing Which ones will make them feel better? So when we talk about substance addictions, for example, it's not necessarily originally the drug or the chemical that produces changes in our body. It's the quality we're looking for that creates initial high. You know, the donut addict, they get high just thinking about going to the donut store because they cross that magic line from control into surrender. Before they take their first bite of fat and flour and sugar, they're already high. So the chemical process happens later, but they're starting to get high before they even bite one of those donuts. The same thing happens with all substance addictions. You get a high feeling just saying, I'm going to do this, because you crossed from control into surrender. I believe it's time to stop blaming our genes for this. These are all personal choices based on imprinted relationships, because we don't have a working relationship with our emotional world. We're unconsciously unconscious. We don't even know why we're doing what we're doing because we don't have the consciousness, because we've never been trained how to do that. We need to stop blaming the things, blaming the alcohol, blaming the marijuana, blaming this, and start taking responsibility for the choices we're all making. So addictions are a relationship. So remember the balancing scale. One side you have addictions, the other side you have emotional sobriety. And the more you work on your emotions, the fewer addictions you have, because it's a balance. And the people who have the most addiction, you can see it in their face. They don't know how to process any emotion, fear, anger, grief, frustration, because they have very little emotional intelligence and they have a high addictive life. Now, I see this all the time with people, especially who have an alcohol addiction. They go, well, I can't take that healing herb, that tincture with alcohol in it, because if I get one drop of alcohol in my blood, I'm going to have to go out and drink again. They actually believe that. Or they'll say, I can't go to that party that it might have a punch bowl, and if somebody spikes the punch bowl, it's got alcohol, and I actually take a sip of it, it's going to activate this gene in me, and I have to start drinking again. Well, that's the victim mentality. That's not true at all. But that's how people think about it, is that they have to avoid this thing because it's evil, and it's going to ignite some gene in them that's never been discovered to begin with. That's the mentality we're dealing with when we talk about the addiction world. So that's the story. That's the natural healing from addictions. It's basically been a journey I've been on for 40, 45 years, and I've helped many people with it. And it shares with you a new model based on nature, not on the scientific paradigm. Science got it wrong. This 90-year-old theory we've been in has got it wrong. Now, once again, I'm okay if people want to seek out sobriety, but sobriety is not healing. It's attempting to become addicted to control. And if that works for you, I'm okay with that. But don't call it recovery and don't call it healing. It's a compensation model, not a curing model. So thank you for joining me today. This is part 2 of a 4-part series. Stay tuned for part 3 and part 4, where I take you into a deeper dive. And in part 4, I give you more important healing tools in order to move yourself through this journey. Thank you for joining me, and may you be happy in your healing. Thank you.